Have you ever wondered about the untold stories of people struggling for their rights in the world's most remote corners? Today, we pull back the curtain on one such story, a tale of struggle and resilience, of a people's fight against oppression and exploitation. We journey to Balochistan. Nestled between Iran and Afghanistan, bordering the Arabian Sea, lies Balochistan. This region, rich with natural resources, is home to the Baloch people, a population whose cries for justice and autonomy have largely echoed unheard in the corridors of global power. It's a story of a people caught in the crosshairs of a harsh military regime, their rights trampled upon, their voices silenced. This is not just a tale of a political struggle, it's a struggle for human rights, for freedom and dignity. It's a struggle against enforced disappearances, against extrajudicial killings. It's the chilling story of activists, journalists, and innocent civilians who vanish without a trace, leaving behind families grappling with anguish and communities living in perpetual fear. It's a tale of economic exploitation, where the wealth of the land is siphoned off by those in power, leaving the rightful owners in the throes of poverty. It's the story of a land rich in minerals and gas, yet a people deprived and disenfranchised. This struggle is also marked by disturbing allegations of organ trafficking, adding another layer of horror to the situation. It's a tale of forced conversions, of forced marriages, a blatant violation of religious freedom and minority rights. Yet despite the enormity of this struggle, it remains concealed from the world's gaze, its gravity overlooked. The lack of substantial international condemnation and action raises questions about the global community's stance on human rights abuses. It underscores a complex geopolitical dynamic that perpetuates the suffering. The Balochistan struggle is one such story that has largely remained untold and overlooked. It's a heartbreaking narrative of a people's fight for their rights, their dignity, and their identity. It's a story that demands our attention, our empathy, and our action. To fully understand the Balochistan struggle, we must take a journey back in time. The roots of the conflict are deeply embedded in the past, reaching back to the mid-20th century when Pakistan was first established. The Baloch people, with their distinct cultural identity, found themselves incorporated into a nation that did not fully acknowledge their unique heritage and aspirations. From the outset, Balochistan, a region rich in natural resources, has been a bone of contention. The Baloch people have long felt marginalized, their voices silenced, and their rights overlooked. Despite the wealth of their land, they have not reaped the benefits. They have seen their resources exploited, their wealth drained, and their people impoverished. Instead of prosperity, they have been met with deprivation. Over the decades, this sense of marginalization has fueled a struggle for autonomy. The Baloch people have sought recognition of their distinct identity and control over their own resources. They have yearned for the freedom to shape their own destiny, free from the heavy-handed approach of the military. However, their struggle for autonomy has been met with resistance. The government, particularly the military, has often responded with a heavy-handed approach, exacerbating the sense of marginalization and oppression. The Baloch people's peaceful protests have often been met with force, their voices stifled and their leaders targeted. But despite the challenges, the Baloch people have remained steadfast in their struggle. They have refused to be silenced. They have continued to fight for their rights, their autonomy, and their recognition. They have refused to be reduced to mere spectators in their own land. The struggle of the Baloch people is a tale of decades of marginalization. It's a story of a people who, despite the odds, have refused to give up their struggle for autonomy. Their resilience and determination are a testament to their indomitable spirit, a beacon of hope amidst a sea of despair. Their struggle is a reminder that the fight for freedom, for autonomy, and for recognition is a fight that is worth fighting, no matter how long it takes or how great the odds. The current situation in Balochistan paints a grim picture of human rights violations. The troubling reality of enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings is a stark reminder of the oppression faced by the Baloch people. Activists, journalists, and civilians who dared to question the government's policies often vanish without a trace, leaving behind families in a state of perpetual heartache and communities living in fear. Adding to this distress is the mounting evidence of organ trafficking, a new chapter in this horrifying narrative. Disturbing allegations suggest that the organs of Baloch victims, kidnapped or killed, are being sold illicitly for profit. This shocking revelation exposes an even darker facet of the region's suffering. The economic exploitation of Balochistan's vast natural resources, including minerals and gas, by the Pakistan army, is another major concern. Despite the region's wealth, the local populace has seen little to no benefit, leading to widespread poverty and a profound sense of disenfranchisement. Religious freedom and the protection of minority rights are also under threat, with reports of forced conversions and marriages, particularly involving Hindu girls. The coercion of individuals to abandon their faith and culture is a grave violation of human rights, highlighting the multifaceted nature of the atrocities committed in Balochistan. In the face of such egregious human rights abuses, the silence of the international community raises troubling questions. Are geopolitical dynamics and financial interests overshadowing the importance of human rights? The lack of international condemnation and action is a chilling testament to the complexities of global politics and the often overlooked suffering of marginalized communities. The plight of the Baloch people is a chilling reminder of the human rights abuses that continue to plague our world. The situation in Balochistan is not just a regional issue, but a global crisis that demands attention, action, and accountability. We must not remain silent in the face of such injustice. The world must acknowledge and address the suffering of the Baloch people, for their struggle is a stark reminder of the work that still needs to be done in the realm of human rights. The global community's response to the Balochistan issue raises significant questions. It's a perplexing paradox, this deafening silence echoing in the halls of international diplomacy. The Balochistan crisis, marked by alarming human rights abuses, has largely gone unaddressed by the world's nations. The lack of substantial condemnation is not just disheartening, it's deeply troubling. And it begs the question, why? Well, the answer lies in the complex labyrinth of international relations. The strategic position of Pakistan, its role in regional stability, and the vested interests of certain nations have contributed to a muted global response. Some Western countries, embroiled in their own geopolitical games, have continued to extend financial and military support to Pakistan, turning a blind eye to the reported atrocities in Balochistan. This complicity, whether passive or active, has serious implications. It not only undermines the universal principles of human rights but also perpetuates the suffering of the Baloch people. It sends a chilling message to other oppressive regimes that they too can act with impunity as long as they serve the interests of the powerful nations. We've seen it before, this selective outrage, this double standard when it comes to upholding human rights. From the Middle East to Africa, from Asia to Latin America, the world's response has often been influenced more by political convenience than by moral conviction. But the winds of change are blowing. There's a growing awareness, a rising tide of voices demanding justice for Balochistan. Human rights organizations, activists, and concerned citizens across the globe are bringing the issue to the forefront, challenging the status quo and urging their governments to take a stand. Yet, the road to justice is long and filled with obstacles. The Balochistan issue is entangled in a web of geopolitical dynamics, making it a daunting challenge for those seeking a peaceful resolution. It requires a concerted effort by the international community, a commitment to put human rights above political interests, and the courage to break the silence. The silence of the international community on the Balochistan issue is both baffling and concerning. In the end, our collective conscience will be judged not by our words, but by our actions. The plight of the Baloch people demands more than sympathy. It calls for empathy, understanding, and most importantly, action. The suffering of the Baloch people demands more than our sympathy. It requires our action. You see, there's a story that's not being told, a narrative that's being suppressed, and a people that are being forgotten. It's the story of Balochistan, a land rich in resources yet impoverished by exploitation, a land filled with people yet haunted by disappearances. This is not just an isolated issue. It's a testament to the power dynamics that shape our world, the silence that sanctions suffering, and the complex geopolitical chess game that continues to claim innocent lives. We have the power to change this narrative. We have the power to shed light on the darkness that has overshadowed Balochistan. Start by raising awareness about the Balochistan issue. Share what you've learned today with your friends, family, and social networks. Post it on your social media. Write about it in your blogs. Discuss it in your classrooms. Let the world know that there is a land called Balochistan, and its people are suffering under the stronghold of a military dictatorship. Advocate for human rights. The enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, allegations of organ trafficking, economic exploitation, and forced conversions taking place in Balochistan are blatant violations of human rights. We must stand up against these atrocities. We must challenge the silence and complicity of international powers. We must demand accountability and justice, foster international dialogue, reach out to your local representatives, politicians, and global organizations. Encourage them to address the Balochistan issue. Encourage them to foster dialogue with Pakistan, to question their policies, and to push for change. The world needs to know the truth about Balochistan, and we need to be the ones to tell it. This struggle is not just about Balochistan, it's about the kind of world we want to live in, a world that values human rights, honors justice, and refuses to remain silent in the face of oppression. Remember, your voice can make a difference. Raise awareness about the Balochistan struggle and contribute to the global fight for human rights.